Elvis Presley's granddaughter, Riley Keough, is opening up about her plans for Graceland and a promise to her.
For over 4 decades, the upstairs floor of Graceland has remained locked. No photos, no tours, no exceptions. Fans have speculated, imagined, and obsessed over what lies beyond the staircase Elvis Presley once climbed but never descended again. But now, his granddaughter Riley Keough has broken the silence. In a rare and emotional revelation, she speaks publicly for the first time about the secret room tied to the second floor, what it holds, why it has remained hidden, and why it may never be opened. What she reveals doesn't confirm the rumors. It shatters them, and what replaces them is far worse. The birth, death, and lockdown of Graceland. Graceland is more than just a mansion. It's a living monument to one of the most influential figures in music history. But before it became a global pilgrimage site for Elvis Presley fans, it was just a quiet southern estate on the outskirts of Memphis, Tennessee. Built in 1939 by local businessman S.E., the original structure was a modest colonial revival-style home with just 10 rooms. It was named Graceland after S's daughter Grace and sat on what was then a serene 13.8-acre plot of farmland. Elvis Presley purchased the home in March 1957 for $12,500. Not out of a desire to flaunt his newfound wealth but to escape the mounting pressures of fame. Just 22 years old and already a national sensation, Elvis sought refuge from the screaming fans, press, and endless demands of stardom. He quickly made Graceland his own, and over the years it evolved into a bold extension of his personality. He expanded the estate, adding rooms, redecorating spaces, and building a life that reflected both his eccentric tastes and his longing for comfort. Among the most iconic additions was the Jungle Room, an over-the-top den filled with Polynesian-style furniture, floor-to-ceiling green shag carpeting, and exotic decor. It doubled as a recording studio in the final years of his life, capturing tracks like Moody Blue and Way Down. The trophy building showcased his gold records and jumpsuits, while the racquetball court and meditation garden offered places of leisure and contemplation. Yet, for all its extravagance, Graceland was never meant to be a museum. It was a home, a place where Elvis laughed, performed for friends, grieved, and ultimately where he died. On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley was found unresponsive in his upstairs bathroom. The world reeled as news of his death broke. He was only 42 years old. In the immediate aftermath, Elvis's father Vernon Presley made a critical decision that would shape the mythology of Graceland forever: the second floor would be sealed. It was a deeply personal choice, one born out of grief, privacy, and reverence. No one outside of close family and a handful of trusted staff would ever be allowed to enter those rooms again. Over time, this space, which included Elvis's bedroom, bathroom, dressing room, and personal office, transformed into a kind of emotional mausoleum. When Graceland opened to the public in 1982, 5 years after Elvis's death, fans from around the world began to walk its halls. They could see the living room, the kitchen, the jungle room, and even the meditation garden where Elvis is buried. But the stairs leading to the second floor remained roped off. The tour ends just below them, a symbolic barrier that invites endless curiosity but grants no access. What few know is that the second floor isn't just hidden, it's protected by a secret room that connects to it, concealed somewhere within Graceland. Only a very small number of people have ever known where this room is. Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's daughter, was one of them. And when her daughter Riley Keough became the heir to Graceland, she too inherited access. Now, Riley has finally broken her silence about this mysterious chamber, and what she has revealed is bad. But before the truth came out, theories flourished, strange, bold, and at times unbelievable. The wild conspiracies behind the sealed door. When something is locked away for decades, sealed without explanation, hidden from even the most devoted eyes, it's inevitable that theories will follow. And in the case of Graceland's second floor, the speculation has taken on a life of its own. The public wasn't just curious, they were obsessed. What could possibly be so secret, so sacred, that even the most exclusive VIP tours had to stop at the staircase? The most explosive theory, that Elvis Presley never died at all. According to a passionate group of believers, the events of August 16, 1977, were a carefully staged illusion. They claimed that Elvis, crushed by fame, addiction, and declining health, orchestrated a master escape plan. The body found in the upstairs bathroom, they argue, wasn't actually Elvis. The scene was set to look authentic, complete with a planted body and convincing medical statements. The escape route, a rumored underground tunnel said to be hidden beneath Graceland. Fans have long speculated that this tunnel leads from the mansion to a wooded area behind the property, a secret exit for the king to flee his own crown. If this theory were true, the family's refusal to open the second floor would make sense as a cover-up, protecting the secret that Elvis staged his death and fled into obscurity. But not all theories hinge on Elvis faking his death. Some suggest the second floor houses a panic room, a space built by Elvis during his later years when he became increasingly paranoid. Allegedly, this hidden chamber includes surveillance equipment, weapons, confidential letters, and perhaps even classified documents tied to political or financial dealings. These theorists argue the room was designed as a last resort, a place where Elvis could retreat from the world or store things too controversial for the public to see. If this theory were true, the Presley family's tight control could be an attempt to avoid igniting scandal, keeping potentially dangerous or reputation-damaging materials out of the public eye. Another theory says that the upstairs rooms contain a deeply disturbing personal archive, not of physical threats but emotional ones. Some believe Elvis's final years were spent in increasing psychological turmoil. If this theory is to be believed, the second floor may contain erratic journal entries, final tapes scribbled on walls, the idea that Elvis recorded discarded medication, highly emotional songs or voice memos in his last states of mind. Intimate confessions about the family's motivation to keep the area locked would be rooted in these tapes, if preserving the public image of Elvis as a beloved icon Riley now revealing the deeply painful deterioration. Some believe they could shatter the myth of Elvis, revealing him not as an untouchable icon but as a haunted man. If true, the Presley family may have sealed these recordings away to protect Elvis's legacy from being redefined, not by the power of his music but by the. None of these theories have ever been proven. Nor have they been definitively denied, until Riley Keough finally spoke out. But even before that moment, there was one event that cracked the door open just a little, a private moment hidden from cameras that revealed something real behind the mystery, the secret room inside Graceland. In 2010, during a rare private tour for Oprah Winfrey, Lisa Marie Presley made the shocking decision to open the secret room. Oprah's production crew followed as far as they were allowed, but just before reaching the door, the cameras were turned off. Lisa Marie insisted on preserving the room's anonymity and privacy. There is no public footage of the entrance, no detailed description of how it is accessed, and no physical layout ever disclosed. To this day, it remains one of the most enigmatic parts of Graceland. Once inside, however, a few details were shared, and they were stunning. The room was described as fireproof, earthquake-proof, and tornado-proof, a reinforced vault designed to withstand nearly anything. Inside were some of Elvis Presley's most treasured and personal possessions, carefully preserved and stored away like sacred relics. Nearly 100 of Elvis's iconic jumpsuits were arranged in pristine condition. Rows of custom jewelry, cufflinks, watches, and massive rings glittering with stones lined specially lit display drawers. A series of personal checks, many signed in his unmistakable handwriting, were filed chronologically. Perhaps most emotionally striking was a wall featuring over 60,000 photographs, each catalogued and protected. Sunglasses worn by Elvis during his famous 1972 performances rested beside a collection of silk scarves and belts he was known to toss into the crowd. These weren't replicas or stage props. These were the real artifacts, worn, used, and cherished by Elvis himself. Lisa Marie confessed that the room served as a private sanctuary for her, a place where she could feel close to her father. "Nobody actually knows this is here," she told Oprah off camera. "I know I can come at any time and rummage through the boxes and grab stuff. It's quite comforting. The whole thing, even the house, is like a little time capsule of the past and nothing has ever changed." Yet despite the emotional weight and comfort the room brought Lisa Marie, she never revealed everything. Even in that intimate moment with Oprah, parts of the space remained sealed. She left some truths buried, perhaps because they were too heavy to confront. After that brief 2010 visit, the room was locked again. Oprah never returned. Lisa Marie never discussed it publicly again. For over a decade, the door stayed closed. But everything changed with Lisa Marie's sudden death on January 12, 2023. At just 54 years old, she died from cardiac arrest, later linked to complications from bariatric surgery, a small bowel obstruction that proved fatal. Her passing shocked the public, but even more so, it devastated her daughter Riley Keough, who not only lost her mother but was instantly thrust into the role of guardian over one of the most emotionally charged legacies in American music history, Graceland. In the months before Lisa Marie's death, she remained deeply connected to the estate. Just 3 months prior, Lisa Marie and Riley had planned a private trip to Graceland, to walk its halls, sit in the garden, and spend time with Elvis, as Lisa Marie put it. That visit never happened. But one moment stayed with Riley, the final words her mother ever spoke to her about Graceland: "Take care of it when it becomes yours. Protect it." Those words were more than sentimental. They were a directive, a torch being passed. As conspiracy theories about Elvis's death, secret rooms, and hidden truths swirled louder than ever, Riley knew what she had to do. She wouldn't let the silence continue. She wouldn't allow myth to define what her family had protected for decades. For Riley Keough, the time had come not to keep Graceland's secrets, but to tell the truth. But first, she had to confront the loudest rumor of all, the one that never seemed to die, the theory that Elvis Presley is still alive. Since the moment Elvis was declared dead on August 16, 1977, a portion of the public simply refused to believe it. A powerful cultural phenomenon grew, the idea that Elvis had faked his death to escape the crushing weight of his behavior wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't just a fringe theory. It was preparation. It became a pop culture obsession become overwhelmed by strange sightings, grief, unusual loss of control by the Presley family, and a deep unwillingness his marriage
to say
Priscilla
goodbye
had
to
ended
the king
years
of
earlier,
rock and roll.
and he was trapped in an exploitative
By the late
contract
1970s,
with manager Colonel
Elvis
Tom
had
Parker.
grown increasingly withdrawn.
His worsening health made every public appearance more difficult. His health rapidly declined in the eyes
due
of
to
conspiracy
prescription drug
theorists.
misuse.
Faking his
Obesity,
death was the
and
only way
stress.
Elvis could truly live.
Most notably,
he rarely
sightings
left the upstairs
across
floor
the
of
country.
Graceland, a place he
The most
seemed
famous
locked into.
came
in 1987 when a man closely resembling Elvis was seen at a Burger King in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Others claimed to have seen him boarding flights under the alias John Burroughs, a name Elvis had used when booking hotels. The story was so widely circulated that major news outlets reported on it. The obsession didn't stop there. Books were written, interviews given. Gail Brewer Giorgio became one of the most prominent voices pushing the "Elvis is alive" narrative, penning "Is Elvis alive?" and appearing on national television to defend her claims. She argued Elvis had become an undercover government informant and faked his death to protect himself. Major Bill Smith, a record producer, claimed he received private messages from Elvis himself. He even released tapes he claimed were recordings of Elvis speaking posthumously, though none were ever verified. Then there was Jimmy Ellis, known by his stage name Orion, a masked performer with a voice strikingly similar to Elvis. Ellis's sudden rise sparked rumors that he was Elvis in disguise, testing whether the public would accept his return under a new identity. At the heart of it all was a single emotional truth: many simply didn't want to believe Elvis was gone. For Riley Keough, however, the consequences were personal. These theories weren't just tabloid fluff. They painted her mother Lisa Marie as a participant in a global cover-up. Some suggested Lisa had been rewarded with Graceland to stay silent. Others whispered that Riley's inheritance was part of a staged family plan. Riley had seen enough. If she was going to inherit the house, the legacy, and the weight of the Presley name, she was also going to inherit the responsibility to speak. But before she could take control, she had to fight for it in court. When Lisa Marie Presley passed away in January 2023, many assumed the transition of Graceland to her daughter Riley Keough would be smooth. After all, Riley was Lisa's eldest child and had always been deeply connected to the estate. But what followed was anything but straightforward. Within weeks of Lisa Marie's death, a legal storm erupted, one that dragged private family business into the public eye. At the center of the dispute was a 2016 amendment to Lisa Marie's trust. The amendment removed her mother Priscilla Presley as co-trustee and named Riley as the sole heir and manager of the estate, including Graceland and the lucrative Elvis Presley brand. Priscilla contested the amendment, raising questions about its authenticity and whether Lisa Marie had indeed authorized it. The challenge immediately ignited headlines around the world. For Riley, the courtroom battle wasn't just about money or fame. It was about protecting her mother's final wishes and defending the legacy she had grown up revering. While Priscilla maintained that her motives were purely protective, citing inconsistencies in the document and her desire to safeguard the estate, many saw the dispute as generational and symbolic. The old guard of the Presley dynasty was being challenged by a new, more private, and emotionally grounded successor. The legal fight tested Riley's strength and resolve. At just 33, she was thrust into a role that combined family leadership, cultural preservation, and business management, all under the blinding glare of the public eye. As fans watched from afar, the question loomed, could she handle the weight of Graceland? Ultimately, in May 2023, the matter was settled out of court. The agreement officially named Riley Keough as the sole trustee of the estate. Priscilla was granted a lump sum settlement and would continue to receive certain benefits. But the control, the final say, belonged to Riley. The legal victory gave her more than ownership. It gave her authority, freedom, and moral standing. And with that authority came a choice. Riley could maintain the family tradition of silence, preserving the mystery of the upstairs and the secret room, letting the legends grow louder and more distorted. Or she could do what no Presley had done before, open a window into the truth. For Riley, the choice was deeply personal. She had grown up watching the world treat her grandfather as both icon and mystery. She saw how conspiracy theories had painted her mother as a co-conspirator in elaborate schemes. And she understood what it meant to carry a legacy built on both myth and pain. It was time to reclaim the narrative. Now, with full control of Graceland and access to the sealed spaces, the upstairs floor and the secret room, Riley Keough made the decision to speak. And when she finally did, her words didn't just challenge the rumors. They exposed something far more haunting. For decades, the Presley family maintained a resolute silence about the upstairs floor of Graceland and even more so about the secret room that connected to it. The family had always insisted on protecting Elvis's private space, locking away the memories preserved there. But now, after Lisa Marie's death and Riley Keough's legal confirmation as the sole heir, everything changed. Riley spoke of the secret room that had been so carefully showed Riley calm but visibly emotional, addressing what had remained sealed tighter than any music century. She began her house Elvis's jumpsuits, then with conviction and decades of photographs. It also concealed something no one had ever spoken of about the secret room and why it had been kept from the world for so long. It was small, she began by shutting down the theories. So thick, she said, no stage grief had soaked into the walls, no look-alike body. The floor was lined with rooms upstairs, she confirmed. A sound machine still emitted the moment her grandfather died. The air smelled of incense, and what she revealed next was something far more disturbing. In the corner sat a table holding a weathered Bible, clock is still stuck at the time of death, and a stack of spiral notebooks. The towels haven't been touched. This was where he went to stop being Elvis. On the bed are the same ones he died on. To just sit or cry or pray or do nothing at all. In the air. Inside the notebooks were pages of fragmented writing, spiritual reflections, song lyrics, names of people never identified. One page, Riley said, just had the word free scribbled again and again in different sizes. Near the bed in the adjacent room she found a shoe box labeled, "Do not open." She opened it. Inside were unsent letters. One to Lisa Marie, another to no one, simply marked to whoever finds this after I'm gone. The letter to Lisa, she admitted, was heartbreaking. She didn't share the contents, only that it read like a goodbye. On one nightstand there were pill bottles, some unopened, some half full. On the other, a handwritten note stuffed into the Bible's pages. Riley refused to read it out loud. It's bad, she said quietly. Not because there's scandal but because there's so much pain in those walls. You feel it the moment you step in. This was a man completely alone, famous beyond imagination and more isolated than anyone I've ever known. She made it clear that the second floor and the secret room would never be open to the public. Some spaces are meant to stay personal, she said, but that doesn't mean they have to stay secret. Riley ended by saying, I'm not doing this to create headlines. I'm doing this so people understand. We didn't keep it closed because we had something to hide. We kept it closed because it hurts too much. As soon as leaks from the interview surfaced, the internet reacted with awe, heartbreak, and debate. Yet Riley remained silent. But for the first time, the world had heard her voice. And it was only the beginning. Social media reacts. The leak of Riley Keough's private interview about the secret room in upstairs Graceland sent shockwaves through social media, the press, and the global Elvis fandom. For many, her words were raw and revelatory, an emotional portrait of a man who had become more myth than memory. Supporters applauded her vulnerability and praised her for sharing what generations of Presleys had chosen to protect. But not everyone reacted with compassion. Almost immediately, conspiracy theorists and longtime skeptics pushed back. "She's only telling us what we already guessed," one user wrote on a viral thread. "There's still no proof, just stories," another added. "If Elvis died in 1977, why wait until now? Why not show us a single photo?" Some took their skepticism further. "I think he lived way past the date they told us. Maybe he just died recently, and that's why Riley's finally opening up," read one particularly sharp comment with over 10,000 likes. Others called it a carefully planned distraction, suggesting the Presley estate was hiding deeper secrets under the guise of emotional honesty. Among the most heartbreaking responses was this: "We waited 40 years and got grief instead of answers." Sources close to Riley say she had originally planned to release the full interview in the coming weeks, but now, with the backlash growing, she's reconsidering. The public's reaction, especially the harsh disbelief, has shaken her trust. Still, Riley has said nothing more. No clarifications, no rebuttals. She seems to have let the silence speak again, as if daring the world to sit with the discomfort she finally revealed. But whether she releases the full interview or lets the leaked clip stand alone, one thing remains clear: Riley Keough has stepped fully into the role her mother asked of her. She has not just inherited Graceland, she has inherited its burden, and she has chosen to carry it with grace.